Okay, yeah, this will be my first recording of video on this particular phone um, with my number 435-9010154. I'm in Pearland. That is actually a Springdale, Utah area code. It's my thing about Zion National Park um, in Zion being 1,000 years of peace, and the United States President Grover Cleveland on the U.S. $1,000 bill, and the Region 1 thing, my thing about a Region 1 thing, and a Six Flag baptism, yeah. Yeah, June 14th, 1992 seemed to be the thing about 6. Yeah. So I can't wait. Yeah, I just called like ABC 13, left several much messages for programming. This is my actual first video recording. I have all the laser lighting, special effects. I'm not limited to what you're seeing on me now and behind me, all inside of where I'm at, like right now, inside this tent in my own home. Um, and my new email address. I've been having technical difficulties based upon having an eSIM, already not making the grade, and then getting a SIM card to actually place in it and continuing not to make the grade. The guy like at AT&T in um, Bay Colony, somewhere between like League City and Dickinson. Okay, um, the guy installs the SIM card number as a ICCID. I mean, considering everything that's been going on, I'm automatically thinking now something about Alvin Community College being the ACC and something about um, Alvin Community College, like student ID. Uh, Similarly, a thing about like when I was there, similarly like automatically in my mind something about Hawaii 5-0 and America Make America Great Again at that location somewhere like in the student library and the student lounge while I was actually going there for a little while. Yeah, and it's kind of like now I'm having a AT&T thing that's going beyond the prepaid plan and have a normal regular like phone that's not like the issue of like a prepaid, but it seemed to be that it presented it's like I was talking to the guy. It's kind of like around the whole entire area. It's like public works in the form of like um, certain factors who present my perception of like Harris County and like a lot of public positions involving like fast food restaurants, and especially my thing that's been going on is seemingly ultimately like decades of like probably anticipating me having an iPhone, um, and having all the issues that seem to be presenting that issue of actually getting one and keeping it without technical difficulties that have been some idea, reflecting some of the information I'm fixing to talk about. Um, yeah, so like I was like referring to um, the ICCID card being attaching the SIM card. Okay. Here's the thing. It seems that a lot of places is presenting almost the issue of like presenting like employees or presenting like every potential as like Wells Fargo clear access banking, yet Wells Fargo is identified as a public account, and it seems to be like a lot of places where people might go that aren't even applying for a position is really what was then that was applying for a position is getting a position over just like making a purchase with their own information and not being anything other than the same information or the principle of it being the current information and and not even have an application only to discover that maybe that it's almost like being some retroactive deal like of customers going into a store to make a purchase only getting the perception now that seem to be, references out Barack Obama's color coded thing about a misappropriation allocation in Mississippi, which those weren't where his words were, but a misappropriation allocation in Mississippi is like allocation becoming allocate and Al Qaeda and the occasion and the ocean about pronunciation of like linguistic alphanumerics, okay? And it's almost like the misappropriation of Katy, Texas, and it's kind of like even call 911. Oh, and them asking what's the emergency. It's like, well, it's not an emergency. That's why I'm calling 911. Um, I mean, it's kind of like really, it seemed to be like really that here recently, it's like 911 operators are seemingly having the issue. It seemed to be like a A default that stood alone, having a right to assemble as collections in a pool, representing some idea as an aggregate, okay? Or some idea like, some idea like a wooden buffalo nickel and fake news as a neighborhood, as a carbon footprint, absentee voting, or mechanics lien somewhere in importing and exporting, or what a boycott and embargo only means, having the same terminology as a baptism. It's hard to believe, isn't it? A boycott and embargo having similarities of raising a bar, GMC raising a bar like a boycott, an embargo, like Wilkes Bar, Pennsylvania, being a location of Social Security Administration's like idea of like international network operations center for Social Security Administration, having that acronym of SSA being like 39. I'm like, there's like an angel, huh? And like a 1992, June 14th, 1992 baptism as representing some idea. It's like a phenomenally huge secret. Like I can get a word out of anyone about like everything like something going on, like I've been talking about. A baptism, huh? And it seemed to be like really ultimately that even the boycott and embargo presents, the HTTP HTTP :// as the bars, and the colon being like a perception looking straight ahead, but at a different angle would look like, probably the same length as the bars based upon, it being, the idea of that direction. In any case, so like what I was really getting to is that it seemed to be that all this information that I've been referring to has led to, like pro bono, and an experience going through like Stargate program and realizing that the air raids had taken place and some real intense stuff for a year that really might be, some idea of the impossible of 2 years, about a military barrage in the mind's eye that way. The thing is that I referred to some information involving certain factors that seem to be that had likewise in addition, the why one pronoun, 4 types of pronouns cannot be used as subject. It's almost like loop squared. It's kind of like I just called ABC 13 Houston at the 713-666-0713 number, and I'm like leaving messages for programming. And it seemed to be my Free Sky Rocky Pro and the American Express Bluebird card with the bird with 2 wings, green and blue. And like a Sammy Hagar song, Returning Home, green and blue, the color of the sea. And I'd refer to it because it seemed to be the thing about the rectangle, not limited to, the thing, but, she's automatically, something I've been looking at. I mean, for real. And even more so when I realized that Mercedes-Benz, once again, was like in front of me, behind me, beside me, in oncoming traffic, each time that this particular person I'd been referring to in a coupon. And I might as well do it real quick again. Kind of like, let me get this stuff out of the way and kind of get it here real quick. Yeah, I'm kind of having that thing. I'm having that thing of spontaneity. Yeah. So like anyway, like once again, and the reason why this person is like, okay, the coupon for like once again LASIK laser corrective eye surgery. Okay, she has white hair and blue eyes. What I've been referring to, kind of like including Austin Powers movie, is a wheelbarrow. And wheelbarrow, like 2 words with like 2 S's, like the misappropriation allocation of the Mississippi, and the 2 eyes. It's almost like the green and blue, the color of the sea, yet the American Express Bluebird card with the green and blue wings, yet the midnight blue. Okay, like I had this deal about 1995, going through the Stargate program, and it presenting the midnight blue in that way, but this particular person is LASIK laser corrective eye surgery. It's the pronunciation of LASIK being LASIX, and 6 alphanumerically is 52, like a VPN, vice president network or virtual personal network. This particular person in the movie Austin Powers has green eyes, but more than likely not the same person, but the identical perfection, except the green and blue, the color of the sea seem to be, in my mailbox and realizing something about the prefix of the White House because of a laser, okay? Yeah, so like in any case, okay, and that had led to, the first prefix of the White House, and ultimately, including like a 1980s band, Foreigner, and the Foreigner 4 thing about really, ultimately, the Midnight Blue being 1995 of several locations, but the thing is seemed to be the FBI acronym of like 1995 identifying Region Zero, and that the U.S. dollars, it's not limited to the U.S. dollar or any claim that it even has to be involved, is really what the deal is about binary numbers being used that way of Region 1 and Region 0, and proper numerical composition of when the P is visible and pronounced and when the P is visible and not pronounced seem to be, the difference between the R between county and country. But once again, it kind of like went on, ultimately, to the things that have been referring to between the Soviet Union presidential jet being in the Midnight Blue. Trump said it's kind of like been like the same, like as a constant. Anyway, I think I'm not real sure about that, but 1995 is just the thing about the 1 year, and it seemed to be that the FBI's acronym, being Federal Bureau of Investigation, automatically the U.S. dollar that way as a Foreign Bureau Interrogation, or Foreign Bureau Intelligence. Um, Not that family business intelligence would be limited to or restricted only to the U.S. $1 bill, but the thing is that seemingly here it seemed to be that it's been presenting the idea of like um, um, a student loan being combined with a Pell Grant and certain issues that seem to be that really reflect whether or not if that has given the similarities of a monopoly, pass go and collect 200. The thing is that ultimately what I was like really referring to with like programming is that I was thinking about some issues like a Transco Tower, and like my Free Sky Rocket Pro, I just got it. Okay, the 1,800 watt in the Midnight Blue. I didn't order it as a Midnight Blue. It's being sold on Amazon.com, like it's always been sold as a metallic royal blue. Um, I ordered it, and what I've got is a Midnight Blue, and the screen is like like landscaping position from side to side, from left to right. Yet the NFC card only works on the handlebar where the push buttons are, not the screen like the other Free Skyrocket Pros. And now it seems to be the GMC is raising a bar about the NFC card on the bar of the bicycle. And I mean, like, not even limited to, yet the bar on the American Express at a 90 degree, yet on the backside, it seems to be like the color coded McDonald's Golden Arches with both, half cycles above, centerline oscillation or the equator, or the quadritator, the humor really of the rhythm and the rhyme and the algorithm and the Al Gore thing seemed to be, really quite a bit about, my thought of Al Gore automatically, the algorithm and the rhythm and the rhyme thing about linguistic alphanumerics, and the word relation is really the word in degree. Yet, in linguistic alphanumerics, in the same principle, not limited or restricted to a degree definition, but only alphanumeric and linguistic alphanumerics that way. Um, More so a pronunciation that way. But anyway, yeah. So like, I was thinking about that because I was thinking about the Transco Tower turning into the Williams Tower, and then it was just because being my thought, what is now, what was not then, the thought of presidents and governors or PG-13 or parentally guided like words and phrases as some idea of information, such as like two wrongs don't make a right. And I'm looking at the American Express Bluebird card, and it's a 15-digit number, but there's like a 3-digit security code on the back. Yet with sets of four, there's three sets of four being 12, and then the last three numbers, it's almost like the Alpha Delta, Sigma Alpha Delta Kappa Phi, with the last three letters being PHI. And the last three numbers on the 15-digit card of the American Express Bluebird card, it is a prepaid card, 15-digit, and the last three numbers are, because it's a 15-digit number, but they're grouped, like normally in sets of four, but the last are just three numbers. Um, and I was kind of like wondering, now, is it really the card that's two wrongs don't make a right? I mean, it's because it's a 15-digit, with the remainder on the 15 digits being the three last three, and including the three um, digit security code on the back. Yet on the front side, it's a 4-digit security code. In any case, so like I was thinking about that, and the model location of like in the beginning was like Allied Bank, then wasn't even identified like with a rectangle with engraved like words or anything. Then like turned to Wells Fargo, and it's got the huge rectangle, identifying the building as Wells Fargo with the engraved granite, whatever it is, um, marble, whatever, probably more likely granite. Um, in any case, so like and then it changed to the Williams Tower, like Transco Tower, and it's kind of like I was just referring to it because reading Lockheed Martin's 2 arrows, 4 lines, and 3 intersecting axes, reading it symbolically and analytically, it's like a 232, symbolic and analytical. Yet in the atonement of Green Acres, da 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 da. Yet on ARO, I mean, where it's at with federal, state, local authorities, at the place of County Road 45, not limited to, but the design of many places, of some of the newest, it seemed to be that ARO is the deal about the ACTP calling once again, the foresights about the symmetrical, asymmetrical design of the back-to-back, and in any case, and the screensaver with the 2 eccentric triangles bouncing off each side of the monitor, okay? But ultimately, like I'm referring to, um, those 2 locations of like Transco Tower turning to Williams Tower where RoboCop was filmed, and now seem to be like, West Loop 610 and Loop Squared, um, almost like why one pronoun, the 4 types of pronouns going to be used as a subject. I mean, if that's really the idea of Cornerstone, I mean, would have to be at the Braves, hopefully, Post Oak, and all the way up to the Transco Tower, Highway 59. I was thinking about that because it turned, it's like between the Milam location of like Allied Bank turning into Wells Fargo and then Williams Tower itself. It's like the pi r squared, the E equal MC squared. And it's like Lockheed Martin being a 323 of reading the 2 arrows, 4 lines, and 3 intersecting axes with 1 line between 2 points, making it that analytical symbolic reading as a 232. But the 5 to 6 triangles on the wall, it's like an invisible thing on the wall based upon, I mean, one shelf on the wall with 2 triangles under as support brackets on that little shelf, and on the exact opposite side of the wall, which is, I thought, like a beginning of like 2 vertical lines, is absolute value. As alignment, everything became in alignment, and it was like dependent upon each other, and it was just like an automatic perception of it's like an invisible alignment of that. But ultimately, it's not limited to do that. But it seemed to be the thing about the 5 and 6 triangles that ultimately like arrived at a head east point of view. What would normally be like at the left, that's the Pacific. It's like almost like the antiperspirant deodorant like power up thing about a head east point of view. And one ball taped to the ceiling. Well, it's almost like the thing about Raiders of the Lost Ark, yet air raids, and that ball seemed to be like in the taped to the ceiling with like a thread with like that adhesive off that power up thing, and it seemed to be like a 152 degree and a 247, and what it would be like in that particular location, pretty close to the stainless steel toilet. And I was just thinking about that, Harrison Ford, thinking about the Raiders of the Lost Ark and that rolling ball. And I was thinking, wow, and then all that geometric, like, thing about the light shining through. I'm not sure if it was the pyramid. I have to think about it. But it hits like an emerald or a stone, like coming through like the outside. And Harrison Ford's holding the staff with it. And it's like, it turns into, I think, 4 or 5 different pastel colors, like lasers, okay? It's like it opens up a secret treasury inside. But anyway, it's like inside of that cell, it's thinking about, that being like with lasers coming through the window, the sliding door, reflecting off the wall, and where it would all meet in midair, and it ultimately got to what I was thinking as a 247 degree with the intersecting axis of 152 degree, okay? So like I taped a ball with thread to the ceiling, hanging down, okay? But anyway, yeah, so like, anyway, I was like thinking about those 2 locations, because it seemed to be Lockheed Martin's analytical reading of 232 if the five eccentric triangles. One of the last area codes of Los Angeles being a 323, the exact opposite of Lockheed Martin analytical and symbolic reading of the two Earth four lines of three intersecting axes as a 232, and the five eccentric triangles overlapping each other with the intersecting axes and lines being the exact opposite of 232 being a 323. It's actually a Los Angeles like area code, but it seemed to be that and like the Transco Tower, and what in the beginning was like Allied Bank turning into Wells Fargo. I'm not sure if it's still the Williams Tower or anything about those two locations, but it seemed to be the information between Loop 610 and that one corner being like why one pronoun of the prototype pronoun is going to be used as a subject. It's like the loop squared. The loop squared and like Loop 610 and that one corner like Brazewood and South Post Oak of Loop 610 in Houston and Loop squared and it presents, all the way up there to those Heinz Property Management actually was doing the Transco Tower, okay, but it's almost like the thing about Heinz ketchup and the pronunciation and the spelling and Heinz ketchup and some serious information, but it seemed to be like between the Milam location of like Allied, Wells Fargo, and like the Williams Tower. It seemed to be the 323 between Transco Tower and Allied Bank. Both of me, the last thing I know of those two locations that they were both Williams Towers of power. And it's almost like it presents like a Newark above the pyramid, and the midnight blue is like the forefathers of the nation. And the difference between the idea of like a 4 and a 4 being like something about shadow government as forefathers of the nation of the acronym of the FBI in binary numbers presenting region 0 that way, and it seemed to be something of the Eurodollar and the Inuit Copters minus Transfiguration about re-entering heaven. Yet the similarities of the boycott and embargo, it's like Jim C. raising a bar, yet now seem to be the NFC card that is on like virtually every other bike, the NFC touching the display window, the screen of the electric bike is now. Now I think mine is the only one that's on the bar, the handlebars, the NFC card, and I'd called like even and like called like the White House about it, about the NFC card being like the Alpha, Sigma Alpha Delta Kappa Phi, and thing in my mind automatically it's like I think this is where Q for Solon comes in of the television series 24 and the acronyms of HOA, GMAC, and IEEE. Yet the SE of Apple iPhone SE and a whole bunch of information and about the alphanumerics of like 24 or the thing about the Roosevelt New Deal Act. Presenting similarities of like Western Auto as far as like 2 syllables and 3 numerical powers using the binary numbers forwards and backwards as a 0, 1, and 1 and 0 to the alphanumerics of Western Auto being 131 like Roosevelt, and then 131 becoming 132 like Univision or like Iowa Colony or Presidential, and then with 10 with 131 being 141 like itemization and expenditure. Western Auto is like the 2 and the 3 alphanumerically and linguistically. And the thing with this is that it's kind of like that information it presents that between Lockheed Martin and the 5 eccentric triangles of those two locations of Transco Tower where RoboCop was actually the movie RoboCop was made at the Transco Tower. And yet Milam, it presents those 3 of Allied Bank and Wells Fargo that actually presents the clear access banking as the idea of a public phone that was Southwestern Bell as a public phone, the blue Southwestern Bell public phone that had been removed all around the state of Texas, if not the entire continent. It seemed to be something like even like now this year 2025, although 1990s when that decision was actually made that it was going to actually start taking place, and it started like really immediately. Um, and I think it was really visibly not a question, within a 2-year period around the entire Houston area that all the blue public phones were starting to be removed. It was like visibly very noticeable. But in the beginning, just according only to where I was driving around, it's really probably more so only what it was of like being visibly, you know, you know, where I was going anyway. But so like now it seems to be the thing about Missouri being 90, and it seemed to be that about AT&T taking over Southwestern Bell, and the issue of like Southwestern Bell or some idea that Houston annexed Clear Lake, the thing about NASA and the space shuttle, and the deal about monochrome and the history of the television screen. And I showed my picture on the Texas ID card. My Texas driver's license has been expired for like 5 or 6 years now, and I did not renew them. As a matter of fact, they want me to take the test over again and get a new driver's license number. Um, and I've waited for my thing because I got to where I needed like a mobility scooter. Hopefully, I started buying like electric bikes and electric transportation. And I've been redirecting maybe with that thought of like real green energy and not having the idea of like, um, all that other information. But in any case, so like, I was thinking about that because it seemed to be that since this is my first video on this particular phone, my previous number, yeah, was like the idea of still AT&T. The thing with this is that, 281-798-9929. It's not. I'm still with AT&T, but that was like a prepaid phone. Now this is like a regular service, no contract. But I've done this before. It's Utah, Springdale, Utah, area code 435. Really, my thing about the Mormon Church, and really seemed to be not the only like English word Zion in the King James Version Bible. That actually became an issue of the Vice President Network. That one word, so like, where's it at in the Mormon and in the Book of Mormon? Like anything online, it was like even finding the word Zion in the Book of Mormon. I mean, was not happening. And I know it's like one of the only like American words, like in the King James Version Bible. I mean, I know the Zion National Park in Springdale, Utah, and Zion represents 1,000 years of peace, and like Grover Cleveland is on the U.S. $1,000, and all that Region 1 stuff, and really that's why I choose 435 as an area code on my mobile phone. Not limited to, not always, whenever I feel the need, and I just kind of like felt the need. It seemed to be like experiencing something about Region 0, not really being the idea anything other than maybe, you know, not the idea anything other than maybe the thought of like the backside of the US $1 and the new accomplice minus the one word about re-entering heaven. It's like, well, where you been? The one book, the one word in Thessalonians, Transfiguration, about going to Mount Olives and ascending and re-entering heaven. It's almost like Thanksgiving impersonating the Lord's Supper. It's kind of like, you kidding me? It's kind of like all those years of like, the gobble gobble of Thanksgiving is that the accusation of Washington D.C. Is that like considered a breach of national security? Is Thanksgiving breaching the Lord's Supper, or vice versa, or is it like really the accusation of pledging the allegiance to the flag, or is that considered tithing as intellectual property? Like, where's the human capital in your method of banking? As a carbon footprint, absolute gutting, and maybe the thought of like maybe mechanics lanes as import and export of the Vice President Network is immigration custom enforcement, maybe as a method of banking, or or the who knows anyway for him. In any case, yeah. So I was kind of like thinking about all that because going through the Stargate program and the mind's eye. Of course, I was thinking about that. Yeah, that's why they call it the mind's eye. And the thing about it seemed to be like now, it seemed to be like really the thing about that song by Dream Theater, Sacrifice Sons, and that one particular jet, as a point of view, it's a cargo jet, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a cargo jet, and the Soviet Union presidential jet that's like virtually identical in design. I think the only difference is that the Soviet Union presidential jet is the Midnight Blue, and obviously the year 1995. This is the year 2025, and it seemed to be the thing about the Free Sky Rocky Pro being in a Midnight Blue and a 1,800 watt that just here recently been made available, but it seemed to be still the idea of like compact center that was previously the summit meeting of concerts, Geneva, Switzerland, Pace concerts in Cape Canaveral, and NASA. Ultimately, Clear Lake, Texas being annexed by Houston, and I'm in Pearland, like all about me being my thing about being myself, okay, and not limited to. But the thing with this is that it seemed to be the thing about NASA and the color code between the space shuttle being black and white and the Holy Seagull being 137 in Clear Lake, Texas. Holy Seagull's about with 2 L's 137, like Clear Lake, Texas, Washington D.C. and like other information as well. But and it seemed to be the thing about Houston being the Houston police, um, Houston annexing. I mean, it's not limited to okay. But when Houston annexed Clear Lake, Texas, the Houston Police Department moved in Clear Lake, Texas, what was predominantly not patrolled by the Houston Police, okay? And it seemed to be like almost like now I have this phone, AT&T, that is not a prepaid. The one right before that I have now, and this is my first like audio MP4 format video recording on it, like right now, my very first one on this particular phone. Um, it's like it's presenting. The guy actually presented. I went back and okay, when I got it, it was only an eSIM, okay, and already there was like an issue, okay, and I've been calling like ABC 13, wondering if I've been receiving. I mean, is it the automated system? Are you having difficulty receiving our signal as ABC 13 Houston? They'll on the ops as like designating what would be normally an extension as an op. Being my thing about normally the programming and in the beginning it's like are you receiving are you having difficulty receiving the signal, and it's kind of like now it seems to be like are you really referring to the NFC card being that signal? I mean before like anyone like had the availability or even know what the signal is, it seemed to be like now I have the card on my Free Sky bike and it's presenting the idea of my bike a security clearance issue, like even with my phone, my bike, and other information that maybe even including what was in Centerpoint Energy and the smart meter. I'm not real sure, but it seemed to be that Centerpoint Energy automatically was something on the left side, on the halo left side, on the symbolic representation between C and a PTI, so on the back side of the US $1 and reflecting some idea of the euro dollar, and the difference between region 0 and a new accomplishment minus transfiguration being 12, region 1 and 2. Yet the euro dollar as region 2 combined with like region 0 being 20, or the alphanumeric's 107. The actual county road I'm on right now, that is likewise in addition 3611 Monastery. And it seemed to be like really something in my mind now. It seemed to be the Mona Lisa and the Lisa Marie thing and Michael Jackson thing about, an experience going through, seemed to be, going through the Stargate program. And Lisa, her initials, Lisa Marie, it's like automatically now with her going with Michael Jackson for that duration and period of time, it's like now the last four of the Social Security Administration's number and her initials of her name, Lisa Marie, her first and middle of like Lisa Marie Presley, and the P thing in proper English numerical composition, visible but not pronounced, as normally being visible and pronounced, but being LM like legal media in the 12 and 13 of the last four of the Social Security Administration's phone number 1-800-772-12 and 13. And ultimately, my thing about my birth year, 1964, being that fact of the last four of Social Security Administration, and ultimately getting to the Social Security Administration Network Operations Center in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and it seemed to be really the similarities of a boycott and embargo and a baptism, and a boycott and a baptism. The similarities of terminology is unreal, not funny. And it's almost like talking to a parrot, and it's like Memphis, and it's almost like a a song I have to think about again. Big wheels keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning. I mean, it's like my Free Sky Rocky Pro, and like loop squared, and the font size, and it seemed to be the font size of like Diners Club, and it really was the issue of like Diners Club and the font size of their emblem when the shades of like grayscale was like really the issue of 5 shades of grayscale. Um, Normally it wasn't that like at all. It's almost like Lockheed Martin's two arrows being the thin thing as compared to like Star Trek and the exit ramp of interstate highway or freeway. And I'm thinking about Lockheed Martin's design like an exit ramp in the font size of Star Trek. So like I was thinking about that because of the wall and certain information. But anyways, it's already going on. Got like 35 minutes and 26 seconds. But yeah, I want to keep this kind of like, already it's like early in the morning. It's like I think the sun's coming up. Yeah, well, I thought maybe it might be, yeah. Wow. But anyway, yeah. So like anyway, I wanted to do that real quick because it seemed to be like that information has presented some ideas between that. When I got this card, all it had was an eSIM, at the place of purchase of AT&T in Bay Colony, like pretty close to Bay Colony, mall anyway. I went back there like yesterday to get an eSIM. I mean, a SIM card. Actually, it was today. Wow. Actually, it's past midnight, so technically it's like yesterday. The sun hadn't come up yet, yeah. And I got a SIM card, and he entered it in as the ICC ID, and it's not showing as the SIM card. It's kind of like really making me already. It's like already like not cool, okay? Um, it seemed to be like going straight to the mantle AT&T that was just now, the same issue of like, going in and out of the circuit, and like phenomenally huge malls being built, high rise, huge commercial venues, going in and out. It's like, now you see it, now you don't. Like Eternal Treasury is just building high rises and huge malls, and it's like, now you see it, now you don't. Going in and out, and it's like, where'd it go? That stuff happening around, the entire United States, I'm assuming. I've seen quite a bit about that, like in the immediate like area, in the Houston area, beyond that funny. But seemingly now it seems to be like, is the Free Sky Rocky Pro representing Geneva, Switzerland as a compact concept. The compact center of the Houston Rockets, what was in the summit, the summit with the Houston Rockets basketball team turned into the compact center. But it seemed to be the Lexus LFSA of Geneva, Switzerland summit meeting and compact center presenting that one Lexus LFSA, the compact concept, and everything alphanumerically, linguistically, and analytically. About that one car and the summit turned into the compact center and the compact computer 64, and the Houston Rockets and NASA in Clear Lake, Texas, and Cape Canaveral, and Pace concerts involving the summit and concerts and the summits in Geneva, Switzerland. And ultimately, the thing about really 1995 is really being presented as 2015. And in addition to 2015, actually the same everything about so much of it being shown as 2015 was really 1995 and 2015 presented as the same of like particular places I was taken to during the Stargate program. And like once again I was referring to it on my channel at Wade ASB Pretty PRIDDY at YouTube.com. I'm probably going to maybe get a new YouTube and maybe close and reopen it with this phone. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to upload this one to Wade ASB Pretty PRDDY at YouTube.com for now. And I might close that and maybe do the Wade ASB Pretty PRDDY. Maybe something pro bono. I'm seeing something in the pro bono that's presenting all the idea of like EBT is electronic benefits transfer, and it seemed to be like San Antonio. It just seemed to be. Something about it being it that way, that it hadn't been used. It's like it's new, being presented as new, and it'd been around for like that Lexus LFSA since I really want to notice, and not that it's any before 1995. I wouldn't know the difference. I hadn't found it. I hadn't looked for it, but I know 1995 that Lexus LFSA is still to this day in the year 2025 a compact concept that's being presented hadn't been sold or distributed, and it's almost like the Y1 pronoun, 4 types of pronouns, going to be subject. Um, and it's really kind of like almost like my Free Sky Rocket Pro that I have. Um, it's like my perception that I'm the only one that has one of them, but it presents like 1995, the World Trade Center, the skyline being like 95, and the emergency 911 call and 9/11 and all that information. But the Midnight Blue, presenting the acronym FBI, like protecting, what it is about intellectual property involving motion picture and entertainment of We International, and now from 181, Houston, Texas, electronic power and selective service. Okay, and the thing with this is that going through the Stargate program, I refer to like quite a bit of information. I don't want to go on much longer. I want to stay within maybe another 10 minutes at the most, maybe. But anyway, yeah. So like all that information, it just kind of like it presents that as a Y1 pronoun, 4 types of pronouns going to be subject. Now it's like loop squared. It's like the corner of Loop 610 at Bracewood and like Post Oak. I mean, it's like it leads right to the Transco Tower and all that information. And it seemed to be the 323 of a combine of Allied Bank turning to Wells Fargo and Williams Tower, and between Transco Tower turning to Williams Tower, and the Lockheed Martin being a 232. Yet the 5 triangles on the wall. It's like all that information between the Transco Tower and Allied Bank turned ultimately, both of them being Williams Tower. Yet, Wells Fargo at that one location on Milam, being one of the three. And the thing about Wells Fargo was like the second time it changed from Allied Bank that wasn't even identified by a rectangle, but it was a known fact. Based upon, the idea. And I'm trying to decide if that American Express Bluebird card presenting the 2 3 digits, one security code, and one of the last 3 of the 15 digit, it's, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Yet somewhere in my mind it seemed to be the Western Auto being 131 like Roosevelt and the Roosevelt New Deal Act between Theodore and Franklin. Yet somewhere in my mind it seemed to be something about the Transco Tower and Allied Bank both turning to Williams Tower, yet Wells Fargo at the Milam locations, only thing in the middle that seems to be presenting the clear access banking as a public account. But all that information is presented as Wells Fargo, but Regions Bank is presented the way it really is as the blue public phone. There's no longer available outside, only inside. And that's what Regions Bank does, presents the insights that way of that like blue phone inside, going to a service department, all the way into a governmental structure of like insights in Quicken Books presents, Regions Bank, exactly that way of that reality about AT&T taking over Southwestern Bell. In that way, and the blue public phones that were used to be like all around the entire continent. I'm real for sure about Texas, and I'm assuming it's the same thing of the blue phone. Not that it has to be all Southwestern Bell, but probably an icon for probably the entire world that uses like telecommunications and involving the telephone as a like landline wires as a public phone, a blue color coded public phone that used to be outside as a public, but inside as a governmental structure. It's like, in between Wells Fargo presenting clear access banking and all that information is really Regions Bank, insights and Quicken Books, the inside and outside thing about the blue public phone, that is no longer existent as an exterior outside color code. But it seemed to be, like what's going on with like the Midnight Blue and the way of like now like my Free Sky, it's like that song, Big Wheel Keep on Turning, Proud Mary Keep on Burning. And I don't remember all the words, but it's talking about Memphis. Working for the man every night and day. But anyway, it's like the word, the place Memphis is in there. And it's almost like Memphis is Memphis. The M is in when alphabets are reversed. And Memphis, the M-E-M is the N-I-N of Memphis. And Memphis. For real, the parrot, okay? And, the absentee of the parrot being Perot. About blue public phone inside. Perot, Ross Perot, and the L, only thing about 1964 and Social Security Administration, 12 and 13 being L and M. My thing now, really kind of like thinking about Lisa Marie, Presley, her, with Michael Jackson and his initials being like MJ and 23, like Sigma Alpha Delta Kappa Phi, yet, the CEO and GMC, and, my thing, thinking that, his reference to like, it's equals 1, 2, 3, ABC, as automatically in my mind, Route 66, and the two acronyms of BBB, Better Business Bureau, and BBB, the Bird Baptism. I mean, for real, and all that information, but it seemed to be like all that going on, um, and now I have this Free Sky Rocky Pro presenting, the idea of the NFC card, and I'd mentioned, it seemed to be like this is where Kiefer Sutherland comes in about, television series 24, and the NFC card is like 23 is 24. Um, 1995 all over again about this one particular buy that I hadn't even purchased. Wasn't even mine, but it was in Burger King. And I think it was just being completed, built for the first time in 1995. What it looks like now in the year 2025, just being completed, remodeled. What was then, I think, was actually completed and designed and modeled that way in the beginning was not a remodel, but this year being in 2025, after I got this bike of the Free Sky Rocky Pro 1800 watt. I ordered, it on Amazon.com, showing as a vertical screen, and a metallic royal blue. But what I received is the screen that is in a landscape side to side, and a midnight blue, which seemed to be the thing about 1995. Okay, and the presidential jet of the Soviet Union, as well as 1995, an acronym of the FBI, the one and only year. It seemed to be that the acronym of the FBI protecting some idea of like motion picture as regions, or we international, or the thought of participation as the acronym for Bureau Interrogation or Stargate program. Oh my God, yeah. Or some like, military barrel determinant reflecting the mind's eye. I kind of like, left reference on ABC 13's like programming voicemail messaging, something about, thing about, television programming and the dolphin, and some idea about Eva LaRue on CSI Miami, and my thing about between like Mark Swelby and like Quincy, there's like CSI Miami, okay, and something about being on like that thing about Eva LaRue like looking at it and saying that's a problem somewhere in the mind's eye. Yeah. So like anyway, yeah. So like I have that to say, but it seemed to be like that song. Likewise, an American Express Bluebird card with the green, blue, the colored sea, and that like Soviet Union presidential jet. And that Sammy Hagar song, Returning Home, green and blue, the color of the sea. You have this coupon with blue eyes of Lexi Selective Corrective Eye Surgery on the west side of Houston. And somewhere in my mind, I mean, straight to the B in venue, where the only letters seem to matter at the B in venue is human civil rights, being, automatic mind of like being itemized going through the circuit and becoming the human capital on the expenditure side and going beyond the Bluebird bus and like just like taken and put on in place on a Airbus H160, and I'm assuming, I don't remember everything about it because there's like a lot of intense air raids going on, not limited to, and remembering, anything about it was like 25 to 30 year period, and automatically now it's like the advantage love 30, and, memory minus tobacco being 35, about a duration of which seemed to be only 1 year, it might be 2 years, what might be considered the impossible about the mind's eye. And I'm really not sure about that for real, but I'm pretty for sure about the 1 year of knowing that the mind's eye is obviously, you know what that means in military bro determinant of the mind's eye. And yeah, you know what that means. Yeah. So like, anyway, so like I kind of like didn't have quite a bit of a memory of it, so like a screensaver, once again, real quick, the Europe's most wealthiest museum. And it is the same color of the Space Shuttle and the Holy Siegel is the design, what looks like a checkerboard with the black and white. I'm assuming it's either marble or granite, and the statues inside. And it's kind of like my question is like, is that the Hall of Souls of the movie with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze? I think it's the seventh seal, the seventh sign. And it's almost like, the other movies that I've referred to. I mean, really for real. I mean, I've been looking at this one particular person in this coupon. That many years. Okay, not even thinking about it. I mean, really like what I'm talking about it now. And like all these other movies, it's kind of like almost like It's almost like economics providing what availability means geographically, and based upon foreknowledge would probably almost anticipate it, almost be guaranteed. Like this coupon, I mean, like, hey, wow, for real, and and that one Austin Powers movie. It's hard to believe. It's not hard to believe at all now, but this particular person with blue eyes, okay, is on the west side of like LASIK laser corrective eye surgery. And Austin Powers, an identical identity with green eyes, if my memory serves me correctly, of like virtual identical perfection, except that the wheelbarrows is 109, my first last name, okay? Yet it seemed to be like the Alphabetics of Los Angeles, and like governor's president, 109 is 110, ultimately 247. Robert E. Rubin, bicentennial drummer, or the thing about, 247, but the thing with this is that geoprism is geoprism spelled with a Z, and the M is in when the alphabet's reversed, and 109 is 110. That way, Chevrolet Geoprism, ultimately the Hyundai Excel, um, about the largest shipment in the port of Houston. Um, and it seemed to be, the thing about returning home and the color code of 1995, uh, the President of the United States Air Force One being identified as a midnight blue. Normally, the colors of the 1040 EZ form is automatically always the President of the United States Jet Air Force One. Um, it has the pastel blue, and sometimes it's not always uh, on 1040 but it's that like a pastel combine of like the pastel greenish blue aqua and the pastel, like baby blue. And the only thing about baby blue is like it's like Vantage Love 30, Secret Tobacco 30, baby being 30 and blue being 40 being a combine of like 70. Or, my thing about, Vantage Love 30 being, Vantage being 70, or Secret Tobacco, Secret being 70, and the baby blue thing about, the color code of the Air Force One. You had a pastel. So, like, anyway, I want to keep that real quick. This is my first video on this particular phone, and I'll have a new email address. Yeah, all right. Wade Arian 213-15159 at att.net. Yeah. So, like, anyway, yeah. So, like, I'm trying to get all that, like, arranged and, like, not have any issue about it, but it seems to, like, automatically it's like a Hawaii 50 issue in Manville at AT&T. It's like what we said in 1995, like, where did it go? And all of a sudden it's like, I don't know how long it's like it's being built, like in a matter a fraction of the time that it. I mean, but anyway, so now it seems to be almost like a Manville issue, and like a Make America Great Again issue, and like Hawaii 50, and something about a duration like when I was going to Alvin Community College at two different times for a brief moment, one of economics and one of computer science. I mean, kind of like an in and out, thing. But yeah, so like that's kind of like doing economics and like that particular thing about computer science for a very short, brief time. Yeah, but anyway, now it seems to be like the thing about Hawaii 50 and like Make America Great Again, based upon television programming at Alvin Community College, and actually seeing something about that there. Yeah. So like anyway, yeah, I want to include that real quick because it seemed to be seemingly now that I have this particular bike, it seemed to be the NFC card being alphanumeric 23, and the 23 letters of Sigma Alpha Delta Kappa Phi, and GMC Racing a Bar. Seemed to be this NFC card that is normally on a touchscreen of every other like free sky bike. Really, virtually anyone that has an NFC card with a touchscreen that's vertical, it's normally touched on the vertical screen, but it's like GMC Racing a Bar. Mine is on the handlebar where the push buttons are for the blinkers and everything. And now it's kind of like the military grade. I've been like kind of like thinking about it. And now I'm like really thinking about it. And I mean, even talking about it, like once again, I'm actually realizing some connectivity about that commercial now. But anyway, yeah. So like anyway, it's already going on close to 54 minutes and 15 seconds. So I think I'm going to go ahead and like kind of take a break here and right there at that. So like there it is. I'm going to upload this like right now to like youtube.com at Wade ASV Pretty PRDDY at youtube.com. There it is, and hopefully I will have my drums and the Pearl Vision VSX in Strata Blue with a total of like 35 pieces like you see me on, with a Pearl Vision VSX with a Strata Red, but I'm getting all the Strata Blue. It's a must have, yeah. Must have, yeah. Need to know Yeah. So like hopefully that will be like real quick. But anyway, yeah. So like anyway, so there it is, and there it is. Yeah.